It says we are live.
Hello, Gun Nation.
What's going on, everybody?
How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm getting over some sort of weird sickness. I don't know, 48-hour bug, something like that. I don't know. So I probably sound a little bit funky. And if I fall asleep in my chair, just ignore me and move on.
I'll just start texting you real quick.
Yeah, well, you'll have to text me very loudly.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, this is the first time in several days. I also had Monday off from work. So really, first time in 3 days I've interacted with a person. So that's actually kind of nice. I'm not a big TV watcher or anything like that, but I did spend a good portion of the last couple of days, kind of laying on the couch watching TV and just feeling worthless.
Yeah. I know that being sick just sucks.
It does suck.
It sucks. Well, thank y'all, everyone out there, for joining us. Really means a lot. We've already got some questions I've been trying to write down. So we'll jump into it. 17 is going to try to join us. He's kind of stuck like he was the last time, so he's going to try to get on as quick as he can if he's able to. But we'll go ahead and ask it now, because I know that a lot of people, and I've actually even gotten comments about it, emailed to me and stuff like that. What do I think about the Sig P365 XL?
Well, you just asked yourself a question, so you should probably answer it first.
I'm asking you. That's the question I was asked, but I am passing it on to you first.
Well, so I'm actually very excited. I'm excited because it's got a longer grip, and probably my biggest criticism of the 365, it's a small gun. It is a very small gun. Now, considering how small it is, it's actually a fantastic shooter. It conforms a little bit better in the hand than a lot of other guns of similar size and weight. I mean, you got to consider that too, because it's like 18 ounces or something like that, right? So this will be probably a little heavier, an ounce or two, and it's 12 rounds native. So I don't know if they'll come out with a 14 or 15 round magazine or something like that as well. But I'm excited. The flat trigger, as long as the trigger feels good. I mean, that's something that I always wonder about with P320s and even 365s, because of that trigger module. You never really know what you're getting out of the box. You could get a really good example, or you could get one that's not actually very good. I've experienced both of those with the post-recall trigger. So if it's good out of the box and then cut for an RMR, the mini Romeo or whatever it is, I'm intrigued. I actually am very excited. The thing is, and this is something we all have to put our battle gear on and be ready for, once these hit the market, the inundation of videos will kill us all. It will absolutely bury us. And so that might become a turnoff very, very quickly. But even if I don't put out a video, I want to try it out because I think it looks good. I think if it really is what they say it's going to be, I think it's pretty cool. And as long as it doesn't have the functionality problems that so many of them have, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. A gun that I can get more than 2 fingers on is good. And when I stretch my thumb out, that I don't blow the end of my thumb off, or my thumb's longer than the barrel, I'm pretty happy with that. But I think it's going to be a good thing. And I have heard that there is going to be an optional 15 round mag for it. But that's, what they're saying. I don't know that for sure, but, there are already people doing videos on it. I just happened, I knew we were going to talk about it. So I just happened to look, and there's like people going, don't even have it in their hand. And they're like, hey, they're coming out with this. And I know people are kind of trying to be, I guess, release or have some information on it, and good for them. But I kind of want to see it, touch it, kind of, do that before I ever considered it. And like you said, with the problems that they've had, because I actually had a firing pin break in my hand. I was about to shoot it and it broke. So I was like, that's a total turn off. And, I've still heard of some people having issues, and I've heard of a lot of people not having any issues. So hopefully they work through all this on the new one. And maybe since it's a little longer, maybe they're going to do some internal changes to it that will prevent it from maybe ever having a problem. But I'm interested in seeing it. And like you said, checking out the trigger and, holding the grip and stuff like that. But, it's when you get into 15 rounds, of course, it's going to be slimmer and things like that. But for me, myself, I'm like, Would I rather have a compact? Probably so. You know, like a double stack compact. But you know, who knows? We'll just have to see when it hits the streets.
Well, that's exactly right. And you know, we've started to see the market shift a little bit, at least a small percentage of it going towards things like the Glock 48 and the Shield 4-inch. Now, from what I've gathered, not only in comments, in popularity of videos, that sort of thing, I don't think they're anywhere near as popular as their smaller counterparts. So, so it'll be interesting to see how this does. Now, the 365, most people would say that it was probably the gun of the year of 2018, and whether good press or bad press, I would say it probably was. It probably got more attention and coverage, love and hate than anything else out there in 2018. And so I kind of wonder, was this a response from Sig to the 48 and the Shield 4-inch? I mean, probably not. I don't know that Sig necessarily cares, just like Glock doesn't really care. But it would be interesting nonetheless to see if there was if they were trying to, you know, take shots at each other a little bit. I don't know.
I think when the 365 came out, you know, the original one, a lot of people were like, you know, I wish it had a little bigger grip, maybe a little longer sight radius. You know, there were probably some of those comments coming in, and maybe Sig listened, you know, and they're like, okay, now we're going to have two versions, the XL or the regular, you know, which pick your poison. So who knows? I mean, like I said, it's just a, you know, the neat thing is it's another opportunity if someone wants it. That's, you know, at least we have choices. That's a great thing.
That's exactly right. And it's funny, Disco is saying the X5 Legion looks pretty interesting. You know, they put out an X5 Legion as well, and it's not just coated gray. It's actually heavier as well. It's almost as heavy, not quite, almost as heavy as the Q5 steel frame, if you can believe that. They put additional weight in the grip, and maybe even a little bit in the forward part of the frame, but in the grip for sure. So that's kind of an interesting one as well. It'd be kind of fun to try that one out.
Yeah, did you see the special edition? And it's a special gun that they did, but it's an FN Tactical, 509 Tactical, and it is kind of a greenish, and then it has like FDE trim on it. So it's like, almost like a light green and tan. So it's got tan accents, but it's light green.
Huh.
And it's a special edition. There's only one distributor carrying it. I forget who it is, but I looked at it first and I was like, eh. Then I looked at it again and I was like, that's actually kind of cool looking.
So it's tan and green, you said?
Yeah, it's light green, and then it's, you know, it has like FDE accents on it. And I forget who the distributor is, but pictures look pretty cool.
I wonder, so it's probably similar to that VP9, and was that a Lipsy's version?
Yeah, and this wasn't Lipsy's, because I remember Lipsy's. It was like, and it wasn't Davidson's. It was apparently a distributor that, and it's supposed to be a limited run, but it's not a common. It's not a common or you know, like a common name distributor. That's why it kind of caught me off guard. If it was at Lipsy's, I would have said, oh yeah, it's a Lipsy's edition or Davidson's. But you know, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's you know, it's just another offering. I just think it's kind of cool. And also, anybody that's interested in the P10F non-optic ready, gosh, Prepper and some other places are selling those for like $370. The non-optics. And I was like, wow, that's a really great price. You know, if you don't have to have an optic, it's still a great gun.
Yeah, nice.
I just got a thing on it today. But anything new and exciting that you've been testing out, or?
Yeah, I got to spend some time with the Wilson Combat, the EDC X9, this little guy right here. I'm going to have to pack this up here before too long and send it back to Harry. I have one more video I actually want to do with it. I think it needs an if I can only have one, but I have to say, my initial judgments of this turned out to be wrong. The one thing I noticed the first time I held this thing, it's a meaty potato. I mean, it fills your hand. It's got a pretty wide grip on it. But as I started shooting it, I sort of fell in love with it. It is a phenomenal shooter, and it's a fast fast shooter. And so it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with it. It'll be actually kind of a bummer to send it back. And if I could, I would actually consider getting one. I mean, I can't, but if I had the money, disposable income, which I don't, I would actually consider getting one. So.
Yeah, they're great guns. And I remember, when he ordered that exact gun, we were at the NRA, and I was telling the guy, I was like, man, I wish it had a little bit longer grip and, maybe a little bit longer slide, but I mean, I like that gun. I really do. And now all of a sudden they have that version in the XL, which is the longer grip, or the magwell, I guess you could say, and the longer slide. And I was able to put my hands on it this week. And I was like, I like that one. I mean, I like both of them, but that having a little bit extra length on the slide and the grip really fit my hand pretty well. So,
nice. That's cool.
Yeah, I was definitely into that one. But let's see here. We did have a question. What do we think about the P10S?
We had that question. I mean, I did several videos with it. I think it's a good gun. I actually prefer some others over it, which I was very surprised about. There are a couple of things. Doesn't sit in my hand very comfortably for whatever reason. There's a bottom angle that just kind of squeezes my fingers together, and that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't care for that. But it's a good gun. I mean, I like the P10 format quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love the P10. The smallest I will go is the C personally. I have seen an S, and it's just, the grip is just too small for me. It doesn't mean it's a bad gun, or it might not fit someone else. I'm not saying that. It's just too small for me. But I think the P10 line as a whole is great, especially the new updated ones. I didn't have any issues with my other one. But that P10F has been running flawlessly, and I'm really, really liking it a lot.
Yeah, nice. They're good guns.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with whatever you choose in that line.
Mm-hmm.
KS, if you had a choice to buy an FNS9 or the FN509, which would you choose and why?
I like the 509 better. I think the grip contour is a little bit more agreeable with me. The grip texture is a little bit more agreeable. I think, I don't know. I mean, they're both good guns, or both built like tanks, but I just prefer the 509 a little bit more. I'd like to try the 509M at some point, but if it's on the list, it's really not. But if it were on the list, it'd be right at the very bottom. So maybe at some point it'd be fun to try.
Yeah, and my opinion on that is, honestly, and nothing against the 509, I actually like the FNS better, and I still own it and love it and shoot it great. And the reason being is, I actually took my FNS 9 and compared it to a 509, and the FNS 9 is bigger around. I mean, I actually measured it around, so it's bigger and I guess more girthy, you should say. And that actually fits my hand better, even with the large back strap on the 509, or I think it comes with a medium on the 509. You have to buy the large back strap from FN, but on the FNS, it comes with the large, medium, or the small. Also, you get 3 mags versus 2 mags on the FNS 9. And really, I took them apart, and Justin Opinion does a really good comparison on the two. But I actually took them apart prior to his video, and I looked inside, and to me, and I'm not picking on anything, it looks like the FNS 9 is a little beefier with all the internals than the 509. And I know each one of them are, they'll rock. There's not a problem with either one of them. However, I prefer the FNS 9. That's just me.
Interesting.
So let's see here. Oh, Fu Master Chu said he made it. Cheers, everyone.
Hey, Fu.
Yep. I love saying Fu. That's funny. Let's see. Okay. We did have a question earlier for music, and it was, I'll kind of ad-lib it, but it was kind of like, what are we thinking about the red dots? How are we liking them? Are they growing more on us? What is our opinion of the red dots on pistols? What's your opinion?
Okay. Well, I mean, I like red dots. Okay. I don't shoot them very often. I'm an iron sights guy. I like iron sights. They don't They don't fail quite as often as red dots potentially could, but I like them for what they are. Excuse me, sorry, again, sick. I don't see them as much of a carry tool as some people do, partly because it's an electronic, right? So there is an opportunity for failure there for a variety of different reasons with a lot of those. And I know red dots now that are coming out are starting to curb this problem, but you got a lot of open stuff in the back, including the actual optic itself that's shining the laser onto the glass.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of room for potential problems with it. Now, if you've got co-witnessing going on, you're gonna save yourself a little bit of headache. But I think I'm probably going to become in the minority in that. They are growing in popularity more and more. More manufacturers are getting into them, which means more options. Now, the bummer of it all is there are different footprints. There's no universal standard or anything like that. So that becomes a little bit challenging, especially if you have a gun that's custom milled for whatever reason for some sort of red dot. You got to stick with that one format, and that may not always work, especially if you want to try something else. You can't necessarily. So they've got their drawbacks, I suppose, but there are benefits to them as well. So I don't know. I'm still playing around with them. I'm still playing around with that Hollow Sun. I'm liking it more and more. I think it's a great red dot. But in terms of practical application for me, not really so much yet.
Okay. Well, I'll kind of flip that whole thing, and I'm actually becoming a big believer in them. Now when I shot carry optics first, I was doing it with a Glock 34 and the Delta Point Pro, and the Glock angle is just not my personal friend. However, I do have a couple of Glocks that I like, and you'll see more of that coming on. But the 34 in particular, I didn't care for. It was the MOS setup, and every time I drew it out, I was having to adjust my, I'm used to a 1911 angle, and I was having to adjust a little bit and then search for the dot. But with the P10F and the P09 now, and I did shoot the P09, I shot it actually yesterday. So I'm just going straight out and my dot's there. And I'm really liking them a lot more and more. It's taken, gosh, so far in the P10F, I've got 2,400 rounds through it. The P09, I've probably got maybe 300. But I'm starting to really like them. I see the reason in having them. And like KS said, if you want a defendable backup, you can run black iron backup sights and you can see through your window. And even if your window cracks or breaks, you can still see your sights. And in a self-defense situation, I kind of look at it this way. And I've done it before in videos. I've point shooted, to 10 yards and I can hit a body. I mean, there's no problem with that, and actually pretty accurately. So if I had to, yeah, I think I could still get it done. But I'm becoming a fan, and I really think that, a lot of police departments are actually starting to test, and even some have already approved red dots for police officers. And I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but I think that it's going to be the future. I don't think it's a fad. And I joke around and I'm kind of like, think about red dots on ARs and stuff. Everybody's like, oh man, iron sights. And of course, red dots have blown those out of the water now. And it's really good to learn on irons and then go back and forth. And I think it's good to challenge yourself, but I'm definitely a believer. And as far as the footprint, if you get the RMR cutout, you can use the RMR, you can use the Hollow Sun and the new SRO on that same footprint. So there's a benefit there. But, I say it's to each their own. And if you're not comfortable with it, keep trying it, see what you think about it. But that's just kind of my opinion.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, they're obviously growing in popularity. So we're going to continue to see more, and we're going to continue to see more, even bigger name manufacturers coming out with more optics ready or optics already on the gun type of options.
Yeah. Oh, and this is actually a very valid question. She's asking it, let's see here. Music is asking, do we bench rest our guns to set in the optic, the red dot optic? So do you bench rest your gun when you adjust your optic?
No,
for yourself?
I don't.
Yeah. And see, I'm not a believer in that either. Now, when I'm doing irons, I'll check them from the bench and I'll check them for carry. But if you think about it, You know, the only time you're going to be benching it is if you're, you know, if you have to get behind cover and you're anchoring it on something. But I'm a big believer in, you know, the way that your eyes and your body and your hands are going to set it up. That's the way you need to be able to shoot it. So if you want to verify it from a bench, that's cool too. But, you know, I've seen guys bench stuff and do all that, set it all up, and then they shoot it and it's, you know, high and right or wherever, because, you know, it depends on how you're going to hold that gun. When it's on a bench, you know, you're not getting any recoil, you're just locking it down there. And that's not how you shoot in realistic, you know, realistic times. So that's kind of why I don't do it.
Right, right.
But again, if that's what you do, there's nothing wrong with what you do. You know, do what works for you.
I agree. I agree.
So, because we are not the judge and the jury by any means. As far as, you know, and this was a question that was brought up earlier too. And I know we've talked about this before. On the PPQ, you know, and Music asked it earlier, but I've had other people ask me about it, you know, because I have PPQ videos out there. What is your opinion of the PPQ? And now the standard, not the all, you know, I mean, just the regular one, not the, you know, the Walther SF or any of that. I'm just talking about the plain Jane PPQ.
I mean, it's a good gun. It's got a fantastic trigger. The ergonomics are very good. You know, I always found it to be a little bit more, I hate this term, but flippy than some other firearms out there. I would notice there was a little bit more muzzle flip than some, but the overall put together of the PPQ is good. I mean, it's a solid gun. I do wish that they would retool it and come out with a new version that's got a lower slide. That was always my biggest beef with PPQs, but otherwise it's a good gun. Yeah.
Mine's very similar. I think the PPQ is a great gun. However, it's very light in the front end. You know, I even tried the stainless steel guide rod from the SS Guide Rod Company, and, you know, it added, I can't remember exactly what the ounce weight was. It added a little bit of weight, but it has a fantastic trigger. You know, the grip was a little short for me. I really think that, and I know that it's a compact, and I could live with the 15 rounds, but it did have a lot of muzzle flip. I mean, even if I put the Gorilla Grip on it, it really anchored it down, but it was accurate. It was accurate, but it was still very, very light in the front end, so to say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, compared to other guns, you know, like if that's the only gun you have and that's what you shoot, you're probably just used to it. But then when you feel another gun that doesn't do it, you're like, okay, now I notice that, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I do think that it needs way, you know, it has that texturing on it, but it's an okay texturing. I just wish it was a little more aggressive.
Yeah, that's true. Those little banana squiggly things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that compared to the VP9, you know, a lot of people love VP9s. What do you think about the VP9? And I know that you've, you know, dealt with them before too.
Yeah, I'd take the VP9 over the PPQ. The trigger's not as good, no doubt about that, but I seem to shoot VP9s a little bit better overall. I can't really explain why, except perhaps that slide mass is just different, sits a little bit lower. But I've always shot VP9s better.
Yeah, you know, out of the two, I probably shot, I might even shoot the PPQ a little better. But one thing that I really liked about the VP9 over the PPQ is the VP9 trigger was more forward. I didn't bury it in the back of the gun. On the I do that on the PPQ. I just bury the trigger. But you know, the VP9 is more forward, so it has a better reach for me. And another knock against the VP9 is, as big as that gun is, it really should have 17 rounds. I wouldn't consider that like a normal compact. But again, a lot of people don't consider the P10C a normal compact either. But I really think it should have had 17 rounds on that particular gun.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I do agree with that.
But I do like the gun a lot.
And do you mind if I address a question real quick? Hurt One had asked a question a little while ago and said he finally broke down and bought a G43X. And he's asking our opinion on the stock triggers on the 48 and the 43X. He says his feels heavy and he's wanting to lower the weight. Any ideas?
Well, I mean, you can go ahead and address that. Yeah, both the guns.
Yeah, I was playing around with the 43X a little bit earlier, the regular 43X, not the beefed up, souped up one. And I'm a big fan of these. In fact, I have two because this is a carry one. It's not the Gucci one, and so this one it's got a tactical pontoon trigger in it, and along with that a ghost connector, and then also I think a half-pound lighter recoil spring, I guess firing pin spring rather, and so that lowers the weight maybe 1.5 pounds on it. So it's super light, and I'd say it's probably 4.5 pounds or close to that. The stock trigger on the 43X and the 48 are awful. I can't stand them. I mean, not only are they pretty heavy, they're 6.5 pounds, something like that, but they also, there's more of a pronounced break than you would want. So you can, when you snap that break, you can see a little bit of that percussion go through, and that is a huge pet peeve of mine. I don't mind a trigger being heavy as long as it's smooth, because if you've got that much of a pronounced break, you're more likely to break the shot, even just a little bit. If you're trying to shoot it 20, 25 yards, something like that, and you have just that little bit of wobble, that's going to throw your round off inches and inches, So it's obviously getting super nerdy with triggers, but I'm a little bit of a trigger snob. I really am. And so anytime I can lighten things up and smooth things out a little bit, because it's more pleasurable and I am more accurate with it, then I'm going to do it every single time. So that would be my recommendation for the 43X and the 48.
Yeah, and I mean, I've messed with plenty of Glock triggers and, own Glocks, but the 43 and the 48, I've tried them and pulled them, and I agree with that. I'm not a fan of either one of those, and they do feel heavier to me. But my big thing about any Glock trigger, I don't care if it's a great stock out of the box, and like you've said before, and I've done it too, if you're buying a 19 and they've got 3 19s in there, lay them all out and pick which one has the best trigger from the get-go. That's what I've always tried to do. But my big pet peeve is the blade safety in the center. On every Glock trigger, I don't care what it is, you pull it back, and of course it doesn't fold all the way in like the P10, C, or F, or whatever. And that little thing just irritates the crap out of my finger. I'll put 200 rounds through it, and I will actually have a blister there. And can I shoot through it? Yes. But should I have to? Not really. And then as far as you're talking about getting that break, you're exactly right. You want to keep the sights on. You want to just have them locked down. And then when that thing breaks, you just want a smooth break. You don't want your front sight to start jerking or anything like that. And if you can put a trigger in it and make you a better shot, make you a more accurate shooter, and if you had to take a longer self-defense shot, you're not going to hit a bystander. You're going to hit your target. And that's why I'm a big proponent of aftermarket triggers that you've tested. Don't just throw one in there and then say, okay, this is my defense gun, and never shoot it. Shoot it, make sure it takes all the ammo you need, make sure it shoots everything and fires everything. Make sure it's dependable before you choose to carry it.
Right. That's absolutely 100% true. And go with, if you're going to start modding your firearms, and you guys know I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that, but do it within reason. Obviously, you want quality manufacturers, tried and true manufacturers, and like Big Johnson said, test it. And I don't mean put a box through it. That's not it. To me, that is not verification of anything. I'm talking 250 to 500 rounds. I know that's a little bit more expensive, but if you think about it, 500 rounds, what's that? Maybe $100 if you buy bulk, or even less. I'm willing to spend that kind of money first to have some fun with the gun and make sure it works, get some practice with it. And at the end of the day, $100, no big deal. Not a problem at all. Then you throw your defense rounds and go to town at that point in time.
And I've seen this at gun stores. A guy will come in with a box and say, hey, I'm trading in my gun. They'll open up the box. There's nothing in it. It's an empty Glock box or whatever. And then the guy will pull his gun out, and unload it in the store and go, I want to trade this in. And the guy will go, okay, here's what I'll give you. And this happened not too long ago. And a guy goes, I want the 19X. So he traded in a Glock 19 MOS and bought a 19X. Well, bought the 19X, did the paperwork, loaded all the rounds in the 19X, put it in the same holster because it fit, put it back in the same holster, and walked out with the new empty Glock box. And I was like, Okay, I'm sure, it's a Glock. It probably would fire, but he's walking out of there, depending on his life, hoping that it's going to fire. And what if it had a burr? What if it, and also it had all the, the shipping grease, or, you don't know if there was anything on the feed ramp, anything obstructing the barrel. He didn't even, take it apart and look at it. He just filled the mag up, jammed it in the gun, racked it, stuck it in his holster. So I'm just like, I wouldn't do that.
No.
I don't care what kind of gun or how dependable you think it is. I wouldn't do that. That's
Well,
just me.
here's the other thing, and this is the same with most firearms, some more than others. Some there's really a break-in period that the manufacturer even says, but even with something as plain Jane as a Glock, and I know people get tired of talking about that, but it's a great example, because people said you just pull it out of the box and go to town. Yes, you probably could. However, aside from even just checking reliability and doing some of that, you're also marrying all the parts together. There is still a little bit of that needs to be done. They put that copper crap in there. Now, I'll admit, I actually remove it all before I shoot it. However, you can leave that in there because that actually has a super, super fine grit in it. That helps marry those parts and wear them down just a little bit, get a little bit more of a shine, a little bit more of a polish. And so you can do it that way, or you can do it your own way with, grease and your own polish and that sort of thing. But I think it is just a good idea. You're getting a new firearm, take it home, take the thing apart, clean it all, put your lube or grease or whatever else you want on it, go to the range, spend the time, spend the money, put 250, 500, 1,000 rounds, whatever you want to do, but make sure the thing works, make sure the magazines work, make sure it feeds the type of ammo you want it to run, all of that stuff. And you're also going to have some fun at the same time. So, you're getting a lot of benefits all the way around. And it's just a great way to make sure that whatever you're going to put on your hip or in front or in your bag or whatever it is going to work, and you're going to be confident with it.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to make sure everything's going to work. I don't want to be stuck out in the, or go to pull the trigger and go bang, and all of a sudden something doesn't work, or it's got jammed with grease, or that might have been the one they made on a Friday and didn't lube it correctly, or who knows what,
Yeah, no, that's
always better to be safe than sorry.
I agree.
All right. Have we been missing any questions? Because I definitely want to get the questions in.
Yeah, actually, Knuckles had a good comment. He said he doesn't think trigger upgrades always translate into, he says actual shooting, but I assume, Knuckles, you probably meant accurate shooting. So what do you think of that?
Well, I try to use, and I kind of use myself as a test bed, of course, because I'm defending my own life. No, a lot of people aren't going to do it for me unless they're armed too. But the way that I look at it is, okay, and just, you got to take this with a grain of salt. Competition shooters or competitive shooters or accuracy bullseye shooters, they don't use 6 and 8 and 10 pound triggers. They just don't do it, period. Okay. They use lighter triggers, and some people are, skittish about lighter triggers. They don't bother me, but some people are. But when you're looking for really good accuracy, and I know it all comes down to the fundamentals of holding the grip properly, and you can make a 5 or 6 pound trigger, you can shoot it accurately, but I'm talking about under speed. Even if you have the gorilla grip on it, and you're just if I'm riding the reset to the reset, I want a lighter trigger, and I can shoot better. I've proved it to myself. I've done bill drills. I've done, I'll tell you what'll prove it to you. Take your stock Glock or your stock M&P or whatever, pistol that you have, and if you've got something with a nicer trigger, that's compatible, compare the two. Just do a bill drill, 7 yards, 6 rounds, as fast as you can. Bow, 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 bow. If you have a bad trigger, or if it's not a nicer trigger, you're going to notice that group expand. But if you've got a really nice trigger, and I've done it, I've shot groups like that as fast as I can and kept them all within that. And I look at, if I had a bad guy running at me, I'm just unloading into him. I'm just, that's what I'm going to be doing. So that's the way I look at it. Now, people can look at it different. If you want a firmer trigger or a heavier trigger, by all means, do what works for you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I prefer.
Yeah. I think everything goes in building blocks. So yes, I think and what I would consider a better trigger, and better obviously is subjective, but I prefer lighter, smoother as well, because that can translate. But if you don't have the fundamentals down, if you don't have the grip down, you don't have the trigger pull down, you don't have the stance and the sights, preferably 2 eyes, not 1 eye, things like that. You got to get those fundamentals down first. If you have those down, and if you can make decent shots with a crappy trigger, and maybe a gun that doesn't feel as good to you and isn't tuned and all that sort of thing, if you can make that do what you need it to do, then when you get into a trigger that's arguably better, maybe something like a Shadow 2 or a custom Glock or whatever it is that's been well tuned, I think you are going to notice a difference. I think it is going to translate into more accurate shots. But again, I firmly believe you must have the fundamentals there first. If you give a finely tuned firearm to somebody who's never shot a firearm before, I don't know that they're really going to necessarily do that well, or it's beginner's luck. It isn't because there are all these fundamentals that are built on top of each other at all. So they go hand in hand, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think people forget how long I've been shooting. I mean, I was shooting when I was a little kid, back when they had revolvers, 1911s. I mean, they didn't have all these Glocks and all this stuff. I'm an old man, so I've had the 12-pound, 15-pound double actions. I've shot all that. And, was I like a bullseye shooter? No. But did I get proficient with that? Yes, because that's what we had. So I've been there, done that, got a hat and a t-shirt. So now it's like, as you're going up, now would I give a 2-pound trigger to a brand new shooter? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend that. But what I'm saying is if you've got the advancement and you've been doing this, and say you've shot your stock Glock for, and I've even proved it to a friend of mine. He's like, oh, you don't need to change anything. This Glock will run. So I had him shoot a group with his Glock, at 10 yards. And he was, this is the Glock he shot forever. And it was like that. Then I handed him a Glock with an Apex trigger, my 19X. His group from there, 10 yards, went to like that. Same tempo he was shooting. And he's like, what have you done to this gun? And I said, it's just a trigger, but it's basically a Glock. It's the same Glock you're shooting. His was a Gen 5. Of course, it's a 19X, longer grip, but he was just like, wow. And I'm like, just trigger. And you're more accurate with it because you're shooting better, you're staging it better, and you're not having that break where your front sight's moving. Because he wasn't vertical. He was kind of like all over the place, like he was swinging the gun. So afterwards, he could tell the difference. So he proved it to himself.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's see here. Did you get your trophy for doing that, Big J? You would be, I would think, hear you harping about doing mods, triggers. Yeah, well, I mean, I just do what I want to do. I mean, if I want to mod something, it's my gun. If someone else doesn't want to, by all means, please do you. I'm not telling you what to do. C. Kim would win that. He's the contest. He's picking on me.
Ken McWilliams is saying he thinks dry fire practice is the key to better shooting.
Oh, definitely. I mean, dry fire is really any gun that you have in your collection, or if you shoot multiple guns. I mean, dry fire is a big thing. I mean, I really think, light switch. I've worn plenty of light switch out, electric switches. I even do it in hotels. Of course, unload, keep your ammo far away, and, do it safely. But yeah, dry fire is a big thing. I think everyone should dry fire. And I know a lot of people that just don't dry fire, but I think you should.
I like dry firing as well, but for me, if I'm gonna dry fire, and I've been working on this, it's a new build I did. It's not about wearing in the trigger or necessarily practicing shooting quite so much. I mean, I'm practicing my grip and my alignment and all of that. But to me, I use dry fire more to get used to triggers, to get used to the feel of a trigger. And one of the reasons is after you pull the trigger, you got to stop and do that and get back to there. And so it's not the same as being able to continue to stay extended, pull the trigger, snap, and have everything else happen, have the slide rack reset and be able to snap again. So, it's fine if you want to do it on something like a Beretta 92. These things, I'll tell you what, with a little spring-loaded snap cap, you could sit here and dry fire all day long. And I have come to love the double action on these things. They're so much fun to dry fire. In fact, I actually like the double action more than the single action on these. And they're great dry fire because, again, I can stay out here the whole time. And here's where I can start working on my sight alignment, trigger pull, and seeing how much wobble. My hands shake a little bit anyway. So there's a little wobble in that front sight when I'm locked on that light switch, but it's not terribly bad, but I can make minor adjustments and figure out where my grip needs to be, the trigger pull and that sort of thing. But dry firing, again, with something like a Glock, great to get used to the trigger. To me, it's not as good for true fundamental practice as going to the range.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always, and I've done it quite a bit in the past, I don't do it as much anymore, but I definitely recommend it. When you're dry firing, I don't care if it's a Glock or a double action, single action, just take a penny and just lay it flat on your top front sight. Just lay it right across the sight, hold it out, and then just press it. And you're going to tell, if you're wiggling the gun, the penny's going to fall off. It's going to tilt and fall off. And just sit there, especially on double action, single action, you could just sit there and click it, click it, click it, click it, and the penny will never move. And that's a big thing. You can even take a spent shell casing. You can stand a shell casing up on there. A penny or a shell casing does a lot of things. I still do that periodically, especially if I notice a little bit of wiggle in the sight. Because as we get older, you might get a little, tremor in your hands. You might get, not as stable as you were back in the day, or your grip might become weak. But if you have a great grip with both hands, that penny will just stay there. So, and of course, if you have to rack it, you're going to have to take the penny off, et cetera. But penny trick in the shell casing is a good trick.
Yeah, my hands are not stable enough to be able to do the penny. That would be utter frustration for me. I feel like I'm pretty realistic with my shooting. I'm not the most accurate. My hands are a little bit of a hot mess. Somebody, Rolling Thunder, was asking about my wrist. It's a compression sleeve. I've got 3 different things going on with my wrist, and the left one is much worse than the right. It just is what it is. Some days are better than others. But so the penny thing, it isn't an option for me, but I still want to try and maintain as much stability and lock everything in as much as I can. So, practice at your own pace, obviously try and improve and do better and that sort of thing. But to those who can keep the penny or the casing on your slide, more power to you. That's impressive.
Yeah, and CCAM is actually saying on your red dot, it'll show movement. He's exactly right. It will. If you just have a slight move, it'll show a jerk on your red dot. So, and I've been practicing with that too on the red dots. Now, Wheeled and Well Armed is asking, do we recommend the Mantis X? And I know what he's talking about, the Mantis X, and I've done videos on it. And actually, I really like mine. I don't know if you've tried. Have you tried the Mantis X?
A long time ago, did a review on it.
Yeah, I think they're really great. They've even done more updates to them. And the neat thing about the Mantis X is you can actually get in a group. I think it was myself, Dirt Road. There's some other guys in there, and as you're shooting against each other, you can actually like challenge or try to outshoot the other guy. So it's kind of like a little group you can get in. It's pretty neat, if you'd ever want to do that.
Yeah. The Mantis X was okay. I liked it all right, but after a while, it just kind of. I didn't necessarily feel like I was getting a lot more out of it. It was interesting to see the pattern right at the break and that nanosecond after the break to see how much wobble there is. But once you build up enough statistics and that sort of thing, it's like, okay, been there, done that. I'm sort of ready to move on,
Yeah, what I liked about it is trying it on different guns like double action, single action, Glocks, CZs, because it's going to kind of show you what you're doing. But the thing that I really liked about it was exactly what you're talking about, the rotation to show if you're moving the gun at the break. And it's pretty neat when you just see a little tiny bit of movement. And then I had some guns where I wasn't used to them and it was all over the place, but then you could fine tune that down and really get used to it. So does it help? Yes, I feel that it helps. Is it the end all be all? No, going out and shooting it and, shooting a real gun and doing that, but it definitely helps during dry fire. So,
yeah.
But, and then I've got a dry fire mag. It's called the dry fire mag. It's for Glocks, and I think they make them for Smith & Wessons. And that's actually neat. I tried the dry fire mag with the Mantis X, and the Mantis X wouldn't pick it up. So they weren't compatible together. But the dry fire mag helps because on the Glock, when you slam it in there, you never have to rack the Glock again. It kind of gives you like it's more of a click trigger. You know, like if you were to put a piece of paper, and I've done that on Glocks, pull the slide back, put a piece of paper in it, and then you can move the trigger, but you don't get the click. Well, this actually gives you a click, and you can adjust it. It's called the dry fire mag, and you can just go click, 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 and you can do it with a Glock. And that actually is a pretty neat tool. It really does work.
Interesting.
Somebody wants to try it out. They're kind of expensive. I think they're like $100, but if you really think about it, not having to rack it, and it gives you more of a somewhat realistic pull than just a dead trigger. So,
right.
But let's see here. Yeah, I know that Humble checked out the double diamond black ice, or he checked out some other stuff he's got for the new connectors, and he's saying that that new one they just released the other day is like one of the best connectors he's ever tried. He really likes it, and it lowered the poundage quite a bit. So I don't know.
I watched well a few minutes of Lenny's video on that. It was like 33 minutes long, and I cannot.
Yeah.
No, can't listen to him do that for 33 minutes. But it looks interesting. I will probably pick up one or two just to play around with. But most of my Glocks are polymer 80s, with the exception of a couple. The problem with polymer 80s, the variances and tolerance differences between each one are actually quite a bit. I mean, there is a huge difference, and so you have to have a wide variety of connectors to find the right one that works properly. So the trigger won't pull too far back and then not reset properly. It's an odd deal. If you have the wrong connector, you'll get a trigger pull that's almost all the way at the back of the housing, and then occasionally it won't want to reset. So you have to play around with that a little bit. And I always worry about introducing new connectors that might not work reliably. But I'd still be interested to try one, at least like maybe in the Glock 19X or something like that, just for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think anything that, I kind of, I like, because I've done that in the past, and I know that you probably have too. And of course, you have a lot more experience at them than I do. But, I know that people have bought like 10 connectors, and then they say, oh, this one's the best one, or this is the one I like. And then they've got 9 other ones that they either just stick them in guns or they don't do anything with them. So I kind of want to find out which one, might be the best, or which one, or even try maybe some of his and see which one I like the best, before I just go out and buy a couple or 2 or 3 different ones.
Yeah, I think that the best connector I've ever used, and unfortunately it's a little finicky in the polymer 80s. In fact, the best connector for the polymer 80s that I found is the Apex connector. Pretty plain Jane. It's a minus connector, but otherwise plain Jane. Seems to be the most consistent in the builds, with the exception of a couple. And again, that's probably my fault, not the connector's fault. But the old Zev race connector, they don't make them anymore. Now they have the Zev Pro, and I have a couple of those. I don't like them very much. But the old Zev race connectors in stock Glocks, oh my gosh, those things were fantastic. You do that, and then a slightly lighter spring in the safety plunger. It's just an awesome combination. You can leave the rest of it stock. It really doesn't even matter at that point in time, because you're going to smooth it out and you're going to lighten it up by about pound and a third. And it just does wonders for the trigger pull.
Wow. Yeah. Humble's saying this new one, gives you more of a rolling break. So you don't have that click, it just rolls right through it. So that sounded pretty cool to me.
Yeah. I like the rolling break.
Yeah. But hey, I wanted to, Mario had a question, and get your opinion on it. On the PO1, and I know you have one, I have one, everybody has one. Do you feel, or a lot of people have one?
They just gave them out. Just everyone has one.
You know what I mean? I mean, they've been around, and a lot of people have tried them.
Right.
Do you feel, now I know that you have the regular one too. Okay, so the non-threaded barrel, where you have a little more weight, but your regular PO1 non-Omega, do you think when you shoot it, it's just a little snappy?
No, I really don't think so. Okay. Now, admittedly, it's been a while since I don't have that one anymore. I just have the Omega. Okay. But there was no difference in recoil or any of that stuff between those two. The PO1 I think is actually a very pleasant gun to shoot.
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is, and I don't know if you can remember, but when you compared your PO7 to your PO1, which one do you think was snappier between those two?
Probably the PO1 just by a hair.
Yeah.
I think part of that just has to do with the grip. I mean, there's a little bit more grip to grab onto with the PO7, but I think between the two, it's relatively negligible.
Yeah, because when I did, the impression, like, got the PO1, went and shot it, I went ahead and compared it against the PO7. No gun is really snappy to me, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give like a newer person to that gun kind of an opinion. And, that's what I did in the video. And I had people go, man, that gun's not snappy. And I'm like, it's not, I'm not trying to say it's snappy. I'm saying compared to some other guns, and what I mean by snappy is it just, has a little more muzzle flip. It's not that it's, doing this. But I thought that it had a little more than the PO7, if I could compare it to a gun.
Now, are you saying muzzle flip or snappy? Because to me, snappy
not muzzle. I'm sorry, just snappiness.
Okay.
The feel of the snappiness.
Yeah. The PO1 is weighted well enough. 27, 28 ounces. I don't know, something like that, maybe a little bit more. I think there's enough there that it really curbs the recoil impulse quite a bit.
And see where I think the PO7, if you just hold the PO7 and the PO1, the PO7 feels more muzzle heavy, just if you're just holding them, where the PO1, the weight is, I guess, maybe a little more towards the rear, middle or the rear, and the PO7 might be a little more towards the front. So I think that helps counteract it. They're both great guns, and the PO1 shoots fine, but it's just, that's my opinion on it. So, and that could vary between other people.
Yeah.
So. And Hail to the Rooster saying once he got his PO7, he got rid of the non-Omega PO1, but he's been looking for a PO1 Omega since then. So, yeah, and I know a lot of people that like the PO1 Omega and then like the PO1 non-Omega. I mean, it's just an opinion, but like we've said before, you can do a lot more to a non-Omega PO1 if you ever want to do upgrades on it.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Bald, you won the Lifetime Award for dedication. I appreciate that he's coming in, just get a grand power and be done with it. Yeah. I admire that. I know you like your grand powers, and you have been firm on that for a long time. That's impressive.
Yeah, but he has. Gosh, for 2.5, 3 years or whatever, he's been pushing the grand power. And I think the Excalibur is a fantastic gun and stuff like that. But and if you really think about it, within the time that YouTube has been going on since we've been doing it for 2.5, 3 years, really how many people have converted? And I'm not saying it's a bad gun, but really how many people have been converted to a grand power? Not a lot. And I'm not saying it's a bad gun, but it just doesn't have the, a lot of people don't run out. And I know a lot of people bought the Excaliburs, but people don't just run out and get like the K100 or, it just doesn't seem like and then it probably with their marketing, kind of like the Steyrs, they just don't, not a lot of people gravitate towards them.
Buffer Zone is asking why I'm wearing a bowling brace. Well, we're bowling, aren't we?
Yeah, we're bowling.
It's a compression sleeve, not a bowling brace, although maybe they're the same. I have no idea. I don't bowl, so.
I think the bowling one, I guess they have those that, with the little braces where you can put the Velcro on it and stuff. But yeah, that kind of does remind me of the bowling ones with the Velcro on them.
Well, I tried to get the absolute thinnest one that I could that still is strong enough to really actually compress, because if I decide to shoot with it, I wanted to impede my grip as little as possible. But I'll tell you what, just dry firing with this on, it's awful. It's an awful experience. I don't care for it at all. I feel like I'm a mile away from the gun. So I doubt you would see it in a video at all. But off hours, I do wear this. So
yeah. Well, got to do what takes care of, what works for you.
Right.
Here's Eric Austin. I hate grand powers because because I can't sell the things to save my life. Okay. So I guess, they don't have, well, and it might be because, like I said, they're just not a lot of people other than Bald, Bald knows about them, but you just don't really hear a lot of people other than, I think, what's his name that's tested some ground powers? Gosh, I forget that guy. Graham Bates. I think he's tested some. Yeah, he's tested some.
He gets all sorts of cool brands. I mean, he did a Citadel 1911. I think it was a 9mm. I forget which one it was, but man, that thing was cool looking. I admit I kind of wanted one of those.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the Excalibur is a beautiful gun. I mean, I've played with them in the store, and I'm like, they do have super nice triggers, and the rotating barrel and stuff like that. But I think it's just, people aren't real familiar with them. So maybe Ball needs to go to work for Grand Power and start slinging those things.
Well, it's funny. Eric Austin said in all the years he's worked as a wholesale rep, he thinks he sold around 2 Grand Powers, and never sold a single one when he worked at K5. So I don't know if that's another distributor or whatever it is, but I don't know that I have ever seen one at any of the stores locally. Anytime I've ever been to any of them. That's not to say that they aren't good. I mean, that's the same with a lot of brands, but just awareness and popularity, I suppose, that makes it a struggle for stores to keep them in stock.
Yeah, I personally know Eric, and yeah, I mean, I've met him and we've talked and stuff, and I know that he has a PO1 too, and we even said the same thing because K5 is one of the stores I've done videos on. I go in there all the time, and they have Grand Powers occasionally, but he's exactly right. They'll sit there. They just never move. So, and someone, Scott's saying his next CZ is going to be a 70 or 97B, and he's not even a 45 guy. 97B is a fantastic gun. Really like mine. So, yeah, Ball and Curious is saying he'll have to become a pro shooter, I guess, for Grand Power.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just, there's other really cool brands that are just not really, people don't really know about them. So I mean, hell, there's brand names that we probably don't even know about, that are overseas and things like that are probably fantastic guns.
Right.
So
Jeffrey's asking if 43X will have a 15-round mag available. There is a company that is working on a 15-round magazine. I don't know that they're done with testing, but they've been testing for months on it. So there may be something coming at a later time.
God, please don't let it be Pro Mag.
No. This is actually this company that you and I both like quite a bit.
Oh, I know. Okay. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. If they make it, it's going to be legit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, oh yeah, that would be awesome. All right. Hey, there's Drucifer. Yeah, appreciate it. But yeah, heck, we're getting about that time, man. Got a couple of minutes. You got anything coming up that you're wanting to talk about, or?
Well, again, the Wilson Combat drops. I've got to do those darn Rock Islands, so I need to take a break and shoot some 10mm for a while, and then come back, circle back around. There's still a lot of stuff to do. I still haven't touched that stupid Mossberg yet. It's been sitting in the safe for 2 months, so eventually that thing has got to come out too. So I can do that work and some other ideas as well. Yeah, so we'll see what happens after that. But everybody, thank you very much. Glad I joined. I wasn't really sure I was going to do it because I'm still pretty under the weather, but it's been fun to talk to real people.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you being on. I know you didn't feel well, and I appreciate it. And there's Beretta. Yeah, we appreciate Beretta and everybody being on. And as we always say, there's a lot of great channels that are watching ours, so please check them out. Subscribe to them. We appreciate all y'all. Y'all bring in great questions. And I did get something that's actually kind of cool, and I've been testing them out today quite a bit. These were from 2A3D. It's a 3D printing company, and they're pistol stands. And he actually does custom ones, and that's actually raised. So that's pretty cool. And then he even makes the larger ones. But this is, man, I put the STI on it, and the small one even holds it. But these are awesome. So these are from 2A3D. I posted on my Instagram. They're pretty awesome. Just got them in. Just put them together, or you don't have to put them together, but I just took them out of the box today and started playing with them, and they're really awesome. Matter of fact, I was putting a red dot on a pistol, and it holds it, and I'm just sitting there putting the red dot on, so I don't have to try to hold it or wedge it between something. So these little suckers are handy. So, but yeah, I did shoot the PO9 with the optic on it. Love it. It's awesome. Ran flawlessly, and I did get to shoot the John Wick 3 Combat Master, the STI, and that thing was awesome. So Texas Gun Arsenal let me shoot his, and I did a video on it, and that thing's pretty unbelievable. So, but I appreciate all y'all joining us. Y'all make this happen, and I will be on vacation for about 2 chats, so I'll be missing 2 chats. I'm going overseas, and these guys will be taking over. So, but we appreciate y'all so much, and y'all have a great night. Thanks, KS. Appreciate you, sir. And y'all have a fantastic night.
Thanks. Appreciate you too, brother.
Thanks, man.
Bye.